The basic story is my dad. I mean, that's how come I'm doing this. This is how come I'm here.
Oh, really? Because of your dad?
Yeah.
Okay. He inspired all this stuff.
Well, he was a spook, and most of the time I was just a little kid, And Dad one time came to me and said, "What do you think of the Vietnam War?" This was like in the, about 65, something like that. And I gave him a flip little teenage answer. I says, you got a sack of hand grenades and some rice patties, and you go throw the hand grenades to win it for the good guys wearing the white hats. I mean, I'd been raised on John Wayne in World War II. All my uncles and my dad was in World War II. So he said, we have to have a talk. And I said, okay. And just went on with my life. And then about the day before my 20th birthday, we came to the house. I figured, we were going to have some cake and ice cream and stuff like that. And I get there, and my dad says it's time to have that talk. And I kind of remembered what he was saying. And then he had a friend of his from Vanderbilt there, Dr. D.F. Fleming. And they took me into my little brother's room and sat me down, and Dad looked at me and said, the Vietnam War is about drugs. There's these secret societies behind it. And I'm thinking, okay, Dad's talking about the mafia. This was like 1969. And then he said, and communism's all a sham. These same secret societies are behind it. It's all a big game. And at that point in time, I thought my daddy was nuts, okay, because, I'd been stuffed under the desk because the Ruskies were going to bomb us. And so it just, it didn't compute. And then they started talking, they started telling me all about my dad's intelligence career.
Who's they? Who started telling you?
My dad and this professor from Vanderbilt, and which had never really been mentioned in the house before. I mean, the only time I remember, I was like 8 years old, and we were living in Nashville, and my older brother and older sister, we were standing up talking outside the living room in this hallway, and my older brother says, I think Dad works for the CIA. And, I was 8 years old. I was into baseball. Didn't really mean much to that. He said, that's how come we went overseas. And I said, huh? And so this was the first time that, because it had never been mentioned in the house, okay? And so they tell me all about his intelligence career, which he had started as an 18-year-old kid. He'd been an exchange student to China in 1936, okay? And at that point in time, it was the State Department just told him casually to, keep your eyes and ears open, especially about what the Japanese are doing. And then he left Shanghai a week before the Japanese bombed it, 1937, and went up to Vladivostok and went across the Trans-Siberian Railway to Vienna and went to Switzerland and ended up in Berlin, and then to London, where he was at the World Council of Churches with the Dulles brothers. And they had a big conference there. And then Dad came back to school, and he graduated in 1939, and he was accepted at a school in Switzerland for international relations. But there was something going on in 1939 in Europe, and there was a war going on. And so he didn't get there. He got as far as the basement of the Library of Congress under Archibald MacLeish. And they gave him a desk, and they said, we want you to become an expert on the Philippines. And so Dad started, studying the Philippines. He used to tell a story about how the guy right next to him, and he helped him, was starting what is now known as the CIA World Fact Book. And they started on 8x5 and the bigger cards, creating this, list of facts about all the countries in the world. And then Donovan walked in, and he started an organization called Coordination of Information, COI. And then COI morphed into the OSS, and Dad was there working for the OSS. And then he got drafted, and OSS said, "Great, you're still going to be working for us, but we're going to put you into military intelligence G2, and we're going to put you on MacArthur's staff, and we want you to report back because we don't trust MacArthur and Willoughby." And then Dad was put on as a personal and private secretary to a Dr. Hayden. And then Dr. Hayden came to the United States and to talk to FDR, and he died here. And then they took my dad out of theater to go get those the papers that he had to carry him back to the Philippines. And then Dad started working with the guerrillas a whole bunch. And because, the Japanese had taken over the Philippines. And he landed on Leyte, and then, like I said, started working with the guerrillas. And he went into Manila way before the government troops with these guerrillas and was helping them set up their diplomatic mission and their government, and they put the collaborators in jail. And MacArthur had been raised in the Philippines, and so when he finally gets to Manila, a bunch of his childhood friends are in jail, and they wanted to find out who did that. And my dad was the highest guy responsible, and so MacArthur said, "Get rid of Millegan." And they moved my dad to be head of research and analysis for the invasion of Japan. And they brought a gentleman in by the name of Ed Lansdale, who had also been in G2 and OSS at the same time, to take my dad's place. And I don't know if you know much about conspiracy literature, but Lansdale figures quite prominently in it. There's a very good book called Gold Warriors by Sterling Seagrave. Sterling Seagrave was the son of the Burma surgeon. He was raised in Southeast Asia. All of his books were Book of the Month Club and New York Times bestsellers until he wrote Gold Warriors, and he had to publish it himself. And he got so many death threats that he moved to the south of France. And it's an amazing book. And then Dad told me he went through a couple of alphas and then ended up in the CIA as branch chief head of all of East Asia Analysis Office. And he was there for several years. And then in 1951, they wanted somebody to talk to Sukarno in Indonesia. And my dad wasn't your typical Ivy League CIA guy. He'd been born in Montana and raised in the Northwest. So...
what's that mean? Is he a knuckle dragger?
No, it just means that he wasn't, I don't know, slick or something like that. You know?
Okay.
I mean, he wasn't Eastern establishment. He was just a kid.
Sure.
Okay. And so I went with him as a little kid, 1.5 years old. I learned Dutch and Malay before I learned English.
Wow.
And and I was a CIA front as a little kid. And then we were there for a couple of years, and Dad got ill, and we went back to Fairfax outside D.C. I was born in D.C. And Dad just did strange, odd jobs. He had a research little place that he did research in, and had a TV show at one time, just did different things. And then 1956, he told us, he said he was going to write a book about the church in Southeast Asia. And we got taken off to our grandparents' house in Oregon, and Mom and Dad went off to the Far East. And then things really changed. We'd been living on this 10-acre farm outside Fairfax along this gravel road that's now a 4-lane highway. And all of a sudden, the farm was put up for sale. We were going to be moving to Rochester. That didn't happen. We moved to another little house in Fairfax. And then all of a sudden, Dad was made vice president of a college in Nashville. And, again, I'm just a little kid, I'm just following the family. And then we were in Nashville for like 2 years. And in the middle of the school year, the president of the college quit. They asked my dad to be president. He said no, sold the house for $15 over its contract, and moved the whole family out to Oregon. And this was in 1959. And this thing in 1969, when they were telling me all about my dad's intelligence career, he said that the thing that paper he had signed said he couldn't talk for 10 years. And so that's why he was talking to me then in 1969, because he said he left the agency soft in 57 and hard in 59. Okay. And then
soft. Can you explain what that means? Soft and hard. Or what's the difference between soft and hard leaving the agency?
Soft was, okay, I'm leaving you guys, but I'm still going to work with you.
Yep.
As the vice president of this college, he was in charge with a bunch of international students and stuff like that.
Right.
But then they were, asking him to do something that he wouldn't do. I mean, he when he first left him in 56, it was because of the drug running. He was in a position where he had knowledge about it, and he would not go along with it. And they offered him a life-changing bribe. They offered him parts of Seven Corners and Tyson's Corners up around the D.C. area. And
so he wasn't the typical CIA pure sociopath that they like to have. This was early days.
Yeah, he didn't take the money. I'll put it that way. He could have taken the money and just turned a blind eye, but
as most do.
Yeah, it wasn't my dad, so I was very proud when
That's good. So when you say he left hard in 69.
59.
59. How do you go? I didn't know anyone actually left quote unquote hard from the CIA. I thought once you're in, you're always in.
Well, no, I mean,
unless you go to jail for blowing the whistle.
Well, it's a bureaucracy like any bureaucracy, and no, he didn't have anything to do with him after that. I mean, I saw some of his employment records. I mean, he did a big thing because he used to, they get these little blue forms every 6 months, and he had duplicates on them. And one of them, he was a GS number, and the other one, he was a higher GS number. And he had to go through all that to get his Social Security and stuff like that. But no, he didn't have anything, he didn't want to have anything to do with him. Yeah, he made a statement that was in the newspaper a little bit before he died that said, because his last job was he was a church administrator. He said, working for the church is much more nicer than working for the CIA. When you're working for the CIA, the ends justify the means. And that just wasn't my dad.
CIA ran churches, didn't they?
Well, I don't know. I know that they have used religious organizations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they sure have. Did your dad ever tell you who really ran the world?
Well, he said this thing about secret societies. After the thing about, telling me about the Vietnam War, about drugs, the next thing out of his mouth was, and communism's all a sham.
Right.
These same secret societies are behind it. It's all a big game.
Right.
Okay. So he, and
how old were you when he told you this?
19.
You're 19. Okay.
I'm 19. I'm married, got a 6-month-old kid. Okay. Started a record.
You started early.
Yeah. Started a record store and was putting on rock and roll dances, So I was having a good time. So I really didn't, this. And after they told me all about my dad's intelligence career, the next thing they started talking to me about.
You were in, and when you were doing the rock and roll stuff with the rock and roll band, that was what decade roughly?
Oh, in the 60s and 70s. I mean, I played music up till about a couple years ago. Okay, I played a lot of music, but
you ever make your way to the Haight-Ashbury Clinic?
Never been to the clinic there. No.
Okay.
No, I was at Monterey though.
Oh, were you really?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
You ever run shoulders with any cult leaders down there in California?
Well, I knew Kesey pretty well.
Really?
Oh, sure, yeah. I live in Springfield, Oregon. He lived in Pleasant Hill, Oregon. It's real close by. And he was an interesting guy. I mean, I put on Grateful Dead dances in the I think the first one was 67, 68, no, 68, and whatnot. And no, I mean, I'm a hippie. I mean, I have no ifs and buts about that.
You ever run into Charles Manson?
No, never ran into Charles Manson, and whatnot. But I went back after my dad talked about, had this talk with me, and most of it, it was overload. I mean, my dad, after they told me about they were playing out a lose scenario in Vietnam, which didn't compute with me at all, okay, because at the same time they were trying to draft me to take me over there to shoot people, but I had to kill them with rules. And so it just didn't make any sense. And so, and then my dad, all in the middle of a sentence, just stopped talking because he could see that he was talking, he was saying about propaganda and psychological warfare, and then he started talking about sway pieces, and he could see that I had no idea.
Sway pieces?
Sway pieces, yeah.
Talking about like news propaganda?
Yeah. And that I had no idea what they were talking about. So I just went on home, and next time I saw him, the only question I really had, because one of the things he told me was that for OSS, one of the things that they had to do was to get 9 copies of everything that was printed. Okay, and to me that seemed like a daunting task. And so the next time I saw him, I said, "Gee, Dad, how did you do that?" And he said, "Well, the biggest thing to print something, you had to have a big building and a big machine and a lot of supplies and a bunch of people." And he said he would just compromise some people and get his copies. Okay, and so because it just didn't make any sense to me at all, and so I was reading a girly magazine, I believe it was Gallery, and reading a story about the JFK assassination, and there was in there, they were saying, well, people talk about, the involvement of the mafia and the involvement of the CIA, and some people talk about secret societies. And that brought back this whole conversation that I'd had with my dad, and I started thinking, well, gee, what was Dad telling me there, And so I started to do research. And the way I do research is to read books. And so I started, first thing I really started to dig into was intelligence. How does intelligence work? What do intelligence officers do?
Sure.
And blah, blah, blah. What's the protocol and all of that type of stuff. And also about the drug trade. And the hardest things for me to find was information about secret societies. And then finally, and during all this time, I mean, I had a record store. I was doing band. I was a busy guy, and I had kids and stuff like that. And so, finally, in 1988, I run across Anthony Sutton's book, America's Secret Establishment: An Introduction to the Order of Skull and Bones, and I read that book, and in there, he talks about Skull and Bones. Being involved with the Russian Revolution and all of that type of stuff. And so I read that and I said, well, gee, maybe my daddy's not nuts after all.
About a year ago, I got hit with a text about an unpaid toll. And when I finally paid it, it turned out to be a scam. This would have never happened with Cash App because they stress transfers with trusted individuals, which is why now I always use Cash App. Your security deserves to be a priority, and Cash App treats it that way. With Security Lock, Cash App requires a successful Face ID for biometric authentication to access your account. It's like your money is protected by your own personal bodyguard, even if your phone is lost or stolen. Plus, if you're about to send money to someone new and Cash App notices something looks a bit off or that you might be falling for a scam, it will send you a warning before the money is sent to confirm everything looks okay. Turn on Security Lock in your Cash App settings today and pay attention to scam warnings to keep your money safe. Learn more at cash.app/security. Moving money should be simple, but it should also be safe. And that's why I like using Cash App. For limited time, new Cash App customers can earn $10 if they use code SECURE10 in their profile at sign up and send $5 to a friend within the first 14 days. Terms apply. Cash App is a financial services platform, not a bank. Banking services provided by Cash App's bank partners. Prepaid debit cards issued at Sutton Bank, member FDIC. Discounts and promotions provided by Cash App, a Block Inc. brand. Visit cash.app/legal/podcast for full disclosures. What exactly is Skull and Bones?
Skull and Bones is a secret society that was started in 1832. It's a outgrowth of a German secret society, and it basically came about because of Phi Beta Kappa. Well, you see, in the United States, we had our first anti-Illuminati scare, okay, in the 1790s. Okay. And George, there's a famous letter to George Washington where he writes back and says, yeah, their tenets are here and whatnot. And then we had a big anti-Masonic scare, okay, so much so that in the 1820s we had an anti-Masonic party. It was the first political party to have a national convention, and then they elected some people to Congress and different things. And then...
what do you mean when you say anti-Masonic scare? I don't understand what that means.
Well, there was a lot of that the Masons were quote unquote evil, bad, something, I mean, it was just
I see what you're saying. Okay.
It was a thing that happened here, and there was speeches and different things. So we had an anti-Masonic party,
like a satanic panic, but for the Masons,
kind of like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you could say that. And then so it became very not nice, okay, to be a member of a secret society, okay.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like secret societies is a very loaded term.
Yeah, it is.
When you say the word secret societies, I feel like most people automatically think of like some crazy fringe thing on like the edge of reality. Might be true, might be witchcraft, might be, science fiction, who knows. But like if you could distill what you mean by a secret society into basic terms, what actually is it?
Well, a secret society is basically a group of people that are working in secrecy to accomplish a goal. Okay, and basically, I see them. These secret societies are using secrecy to lie, cheat, and steal.
So, by that term, could like Scientology be a secret society?
Oh, kind of, I guess. I mean. Is there a membership list of Scientology?
Yes.
Okay. Well, then you know who the members are. I mean,
yeah. Or like, yeah. I don't know. Any sort of secret club could be a secret. It doesn't have to be like some nefarious thing where they suck the blood of children, right?
No, it doesn't have to be. I mean,
okay.
Secret societies have developed, through time for different reasons. Okay, I mean, you at one point in time you had the Catholic Church as the main power, right? And if you didn't do what they did, you could get yourself in trouble. Mm-hmm. Okay, so some people banded together in secret societies to deal with the Catholic Church, and I mean. That's one thing I find is that, there's different secret societies that have developed over time. Mm-hmm. And at one point, they become aware of each other, and they might even have been fighting each other. But then they say, wait a minute, why are we fighting each other when our common enemy is the people?
Okay, so how many secret societies do we have, basically? We got the Freemasons. We got the Illuminati. Mm-hmm. Can you like name like the top big players in secret societies?
Well, you've got the mafia.
Okay, yeah, we got the mafia. That's a good secret society.
They're a secret society.
Yeah,
you've got Chabad.
Chabad. I want to talk about Chabad. I'm interested in that.
Okay. And now see.
So we also have the Illuminati, and we also have the Masons, right?
Well, see, Phi Beta Kappa. Okay, Phi Beta Kappa.
Is this Skull and Bones?
This is the organization that Phi Beta Kappa. Some of it morphed into Skull and Bones. Okay. Because see, Phi Beta Kappa started December 5th, 1776. Okay. And the Illuminati started May 1st, 1776. Okay. Oh. And there's a lot of
so these are the first ones.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, well, no. There's
that were in modern times.
Yeah. And so Phi Beta Kappa was December 5th, 1776 at the College of William and Mary. Mm-hmm. Two shoots went off. One went to Yale, one went to Harvard. Then you had the American Revolution. And so College of William and Mary was shut down, but the two shoots at Yale and Harvard kept going. And there are Masonic scholars that say that Phi Beta Kappa was the Illuminati come to America. Okay, there's some that say, well, there wasn't enough time for the ships to get back here, but there's plenty, because see, the Illuminati, started by Weishaupt there in Bavaria, was very much Greek. Okay, and before that, all the college, little clubs had generally been Latin. Okay, so Phi Beta was one of the first ones to do Greek.
Greek's better than Latin.
And then, so in the 1820s, it became very, not gauche or whatever. You didn't want to be a member of a secret society. So the Phi Beta Kappa, first at Harvard, went open, became an open society. Okay. And then the Phi Beta Kappa, in 1832, two members of Phi Beta Kappa, George Huntington Russell and Alfonso Taft, then formed the Order of Skull and Bones. And William Huntington Russell had been in Germany going to school before then, and the Skull and Bones is an outgrowth of a German secret society, of the Thule Society.
And what's their goal?
Their goal, I don't know. I'm not a member. They don't tell me. But it seems that their goal is to control things. Okay, control our future and control our kids' future.
Control our future and control our kids' future. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, one of the first things that Skull and Bones did was to take over the education system. Okay. They brought over the Prussian education system. Okay. The Prussians were very upset when Napoleon beat them. Okay. So they took the actual kids, by bayonet point and had compulsory education. And instead of teaching how to think, they teach you what to think. Okay, and so William Huntington Russell was the scion of Russell and Company. Okay, which was the third largest opium smuggling concern in the world. Okay, and opium creates a huge amount of money. Okay, they say that now, fentanyl has taken over a lot of that market, but they were saying that there was 1 million to 1.2 million junkies in the United States. I think there's a few more, okay? And 1 million to 1.2 million, that takes a ton a day, okay, that needs to be passed around to people, okay? Now, there's some people that can, maybe get a month's supply. There's some people get a week's supply. Some people get a 3-day supply. Most people are daily opium intake. Okay, so you look at Russia. Russia is 5% of their population is daily opium intake. China still has the largest amount of people that are daily opium intake. Iran has the largest percentage. 10% of their population is daily opium intake. Okay, it creates huge amounts of money, which then allows these people to corrupt things. I mean, how Skull and Bones got its real big hooks into the United States of America and the United States government was through the Spanish-American War. And that was because of drugs. Because, you see, opium, after the Second Opium War, opium became legal. Okay?
They don't like that, do they?
And
we got to make that shit illegal.
It should be legal.
No, I know, but they can make more money if it's illegal, right?
Right. So after it got made legal, I was tracking these people because I was really, digging into the drug trade, and you can see where after they lost their cash cow, before the cash cow, they had 85% of the emerging steel infrastructure in the Far East, the railroads and the steamship lines. Okay, so they, you can see where they start selling it off. It gets down to about 15%, and they sell their.
These are like all kids. Look at this. Look at these skull. Look, this is the Skull and Bones yearbook photo.
Yeah. Well, every year. I mean, those guys.
These kids look like teenagers.
Well, they're juniors in college.
That's wild.
They're juniors in college.
So what's the initiation for Skull and Bones? Is it like some like weird fucking like what those what were those dudes? Who were the Templars? What they had to do? They had to like kiss the taint of like the leader or something gay like that. They have to do anything like that with the Skull and Bones?
You know, I don't know. I'm not a member. I mean, there's all kinds of stories. You know, the story. You know that there is. They had a night where they have to tell everybody about all their sexual adventures and all this type of stuff. And
that's they probably had to blackmail each other, right? So they didn't have to get any rats.
Well, you know, I mean, there's some secret societies where you have to give them blackmail material before you join.
I think that's how you have to get into American politics, is you have to give them blackmail.
Well,
you know, I think you have to, like, there has to be some sick shit that you've done in order for you to run society.
Well, I find that sad.
Most people think that mushrooms are either psychedelics or food, but little did you know there's a third category: the calming psychoactive effects of Amanita muscaria. You've seen it in ancient myths, Christmas folklore, and most people don't even know what it does. It's not an acid trip, but it provides stress relief like I've never experienced in my life. I never would have touched Amanita if it wasn't for Amantara, because they educate people instead of pushing products, which is nothing like the sketchy gas station stuff you see. Small doses put you in a calm, focused, almost flow state headspace. A medium dose is like a jolly alcohol alternative, great for sleep and for dreams. Some people even call it nature's wine. I take a few capsules most days after work when I get home because it keeps me present, calm, and in the moment when I'm with my family, so I don't have to worry about the stress for tomorrow or the stress from the previous day. Imagine being in a super stressful environment and not feeling triggered. That's what Amanita muscaria does for me. Amantara is the trusted Amanita supplier in the USA, totally legal, no synthetics, and 50,000 happy customers. They have the largest Amanita selection, from oils, chocolates, to the raw caps. It's not just a store or a single product. These guys are helping pave the way for the new legal medicinal psychoactive mushroom in the US, and I'm happy to be a part of it. Go to amantara.com/go/DJ and use my code DJ22 for 22% off your first order. That's spelled AMENTARA.com/go/DJ. And don't forget to use the code DJ22 for 22% off your first order. And, you know, all this stuff is so crazy because it's like, up until a month ago, this was like very fringe type conspiracy theory stuff. But when all this Epstein stuff came out, now it's like we're removing all the grease from the glass, and the glass is becoming more transparent. And now we can kind of see the shapes and the colors and the way all this stuff moves in this other dimension. Right? There's some dimension that's above us. So like before it was just completely opaque. We couldn't see anything through it. And now that we have these little drips of emails and stuff, and this Epstein evidence and this testimony, you know, people like Les Wexner giving up Ellie de Rothschild and all this stuff. It's like, whoa, it's like all this shit, this might be real. Maybe this is all just an allegory. Maybe we're living in a fake fucking reality.
No.
And like, it kind of is flipping. Like, a lot of people are getting their worldviews completely turned upside down, realizing that some of this shit, you know, that maybe this is the way the world fucking works.
Well, that's what happened with my dad telling me that story. Okay, and it took me 20 years just to understand, you know, a lot of it. And by the time I finally understood it, to ask him questions, he was real sick and soon died, so I didn't really get to talk to him about it, but I got to go through his papers and understand some of it. But again, a lot of it has to do with the drug trade. And then, you want to know how the secret societies run the world?
Yes.
Okay, well, it's a Leviathan of 3 levels.
Okay.
And each level has 3 parts.
Who's the top level?
The top level is mining, metal, and money. Okay, and you think about it, it makes sense. If you control the mining that the metal comes from, that the money's based on, you're in a really good position. I mean, I had an author that could affect that position, and he first came at me with a book about gold mining, but it was like, I don't know, 1,000 pages, and it was just when I first got started publishing, and I didn't, you know, I said, I know nothing about gold mining. And so he finally got it published someplace in Poland. And then he came at me later with a thinner book, and he had the support of a professor from Stanford on it. And it was called Calling All Angels. and I said about the death of his great aunt Jane Stanford. And I said, okay, well, I'll publish this book for you, Stephen Requa. And we got it out, and he was dead in 7 days. Okay, he got run over by a hit-and-run lorry in London. And I mean, this guy, he was a mining engineer. His daddy was a mining engineer. His granddaddy was a mining engineer. His great-granddaddy was a mining engineer and one of the 49ers, part of the Comstock Lode and president of the Central Pacific. Okay, so this, and so mining metal and money is the top level.
Right.
Okay. The next level is a very active level. Drugs, guns, and oil.
This is the Epstein level?
Well,
because he was doing a lot of arms trafficking, right?
Right. Well, and oil. You see, it was actually a member of Skull and Bones, Dr. Benjamin Silliman Jr. Okay, who was given a vial of rock oil from Cornell, and by Mr. Bissell, and he wrote him a letter, and he said, "Gee, gentlemen, you have some products here."
Richard Bissell.
Yeah. You have some products here that with very inexpensive processes, you have some very valuable products. And so they were the piece, it was Skull and Bones that sent Drake to Pennsylvania to do the first oil well. Okay, and the only reason we go to the oil store is because they own it. Okay, there's other ways of making energy. Okay.
Yeah, but you see the file Epstein killed Pons.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
Yeah. Well, we did a book about
he killed cold fusion
energy fusion from a Italian top Italian scientist and a top Italian investigative reporter that talked about how they're already using cold fusion and they're using it to make quote unquote mini-nukes and
what?
Yeah. It's a book called Secret of Three Bullets, and we had to do it as fiction. And they said, "Why do we have to do this in fiction?" And I read it, and I said, "Oh, I understand." And but going back to
they have cold fusion mini-nukes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In Italy.
No, they were using them during the first Gulf War. There, they were saying that they would find these tanks, and they would be all irradiated and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and they were saying it was from spent uranium in the armor or something like that. It was actually these mini nukes. I'm not an expert on it, and I published the book, but it was like 15 years ago. Can't remember a whole lot.
I hear all these crazy stories. I've been hearing them for so long about how the U.S. has the best top secret kind of weaponry, black budget stuff that looks like magic. But we go into this Iran war and it's like, it seems like we haven't progressed at all in centuries.
Well,
we're using the same old shit.
Again, the secret societal, they really... The United States of America has been, one of their focuses of having us dissolve, okay, because they do not like government of and by and for the people, okay. So again, drugs, guns, and oil, okay, and
oh yeah, I got you off track. We're doing this. Yeah. It starts with mining metal and money. The layer below that is drugs, guns, and oil.
Right, and the The drug trade, like I said, the Spanish-American War, after opium became legal, okay, they lost their cash cow. And so what did they do? Well, they foment the Spanish-American War, okay, through false flag and yellow journalism. I mean, the Maine, right? Remember the Maine?
What kind of journalism did you say?
Yellow journalism.
What's that mean?
Oh, that means like Hearst saying, you give me... I'll make the war. I mean, they created propaganda, false propaganda to get the American people.
Why do they call it
upset.
yellow?
That was a term at the time. I don't know. I don't know. And so you had Teddy Roosevelt. Okay, Teddy Roosevelt was Under Secretary of Navy. Okay, and the Secretary of Navy had gout. Secretary of Navy went home early one day. Teddy went up to the desk and sent off a bunch of missives. Secretary of Navy came back and said, Teddy, what did you do? And he never left early again. Okay. And, well, we declared war on Spain, but we didn't go to Cuba right away. Teddy got to quit his job and go get a bunch of his friends together, but we took the Philippines right away. Okay, that's what Teddy had done. He'd sent off a message to Perry, says, get down there to Manila. Okay, so why did we take over the Philippines? Okay, because Manila is the oldest Western port in the Far East. Okay, it's Spain were sending, galleons from there. So, and these guys were, opium smugglers, but, they didn't really cop to it when they were doing it. They were, China traders.
Right.
They always had a back office in Manila. So they sent out Arthur MacArthur as the first military governor, in the Philippines. And then they sent out William Howard Taft as the first civilian governor, and he was a member of the Order of Skull and Bones, son of the founder, Alfonso Taft, So McKinley asked William Howard, you want to be on the Supreme Court? And William Howard looked, he was a big guy. He looked good in black robes, and he's, matter of fact, the only guy who's both President of the United States and Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court. And so, but William Howard said no, and finally McKinley was shot. And Teddy was president. And see, the Roosevelts were heavily involved with the drug trade. They were ship captains and owned ships. And matter of fact, Warren Delano, Franklin's grandfather, was the chief factor for Russell and Company for 20 years in Canton. Matter of fact, he came back to the United States, lost all of his money in a panic, and went back and made another fortune. So then finally Teddy asked William Howard, well, you want to be Secretary of War? William Howard said, sure, I'll be Secretary of War. His daddy'd been Secretary of War. So he leaves the Philippines. Well, if you look at the historical record, what did William Howard do before he left the Philippines? He made opium illegal for the first time in modern Asia.
Perfect.
So if it's illegal, you need them smugglers.
That's right.
And then what did William Howard do? He started the Hague and the Shanghai Convention, which gave us the prohibition on cannabis and the prohibition on coca and the prohibition on opium. Yeah. And what that does is it allows these people to get primitives to grow these plants for pennies, and then process them and sell them for big bucks, which gives them the money then to corrupt everything. Oh, here, because, it's a huge pile of money.
Right. What do you know about the Trilateral Commission?
Well, the Trilateral Commission was something set up by
Rockefeller.
Rockefeller, David Rockefeller. Yeah. Jimmy Carter was a member of it. And they had, Asian, mostly Japan people in it. And it's a quasi-secret society. It's really not secret. You can get a list.
Bill
of
Gates
membership.
was on there, right? Or no?
I don't know.
Find out. Is there a list of who was on the Trilateral Commission, Steve? See if you can find that. I have a friend who is a former CIA agent for like over 20 years. And he was telling me he has a very close former friend who is in CIA who went to one of the Trilateral Commission meetings. And she said it was all about arms deals.
Yeah, sure. It's a place where people can sit around a table and talk to each other, and get business done, and whatnot, And so drugs, guns, and oil,
It's just crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy, all these people.
Right. So where this meets the road, Media. They got to control the narrative, right?
Podcasts? Think they're controlling podcasts?
I don't know. Well, their
trying to get some of the secret society dough
is minimal. And it always breaks through. There's, the people are stiff-necked, and then music / movies. They got to control the culture or the culture will bite them in the butt.
Right. Yeah, that used to work. Doesn't work so much anymore. Okay.
Gates was not on the trilateral.
Gates was never on the trilateral?
No.
So these are the guys. Wow, look at this. So these people all represent different countries.
I mean, it's basically a business meeting. You know, it's similar to the Bilderberg meeting.
Jason, similar to the Bilderbergs. South Africa. Who else we got here?
Russia, Lebanon.
Iran. Look at that Iran lady. We got Russia, Istanbul, Middle East Center, Beirut, and Moscow. Okay, so is the basic purpose of the Trilateral Commission for like all the countries to get together and say, this is what we're gonna do, like this is our plan, this is how we're gonna run the world?
Well, maybe to a certain extent. To a certain extent, you know, I mean, they've got meetings, you know, all different times around. You know, they got the WEF. You know, they got lots.
And why
of
would they invite Jeffrey Epstein to the Trilateral Commission?
Well, because he has contacts.
When he's in his 20s or 30 years old, maybe.
You know,
seems like he was getting groomed.
Among other things, you know, I mean, again, I'm not a member of these. I'm you know, outside looking in, trying to figure out, you know, what they're doing.
What is your take on it, though? You know, like, what do you think? Why would they invite him at such a young age to be on the fucking Trilateral Commission?
Well, because he had contacts. He had something that they wanted. They had something that they wanted, something that he could do. You know, I mean, it's about, you know, getting people together. Okay, what can you do? What can you do? You know, okay, let's do it together. Oh, maybe we can make some money on this too. I mean, you know, these are government people and business people and stuff like that. So it's you know, it's a meeting. But so it's media, movie/music, and then quote unquote magic. Okay, their ability to hoodwink us, to make us think something else is happening, and then their preponderance on doing mass trauma rituals to keep us in line. Okay, because at its core, the JFK assassination is a mass trauma ritual. Okay, I mean, they killed the president, right? In public. You could kill the president.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah. And then 9/11, also at its core, was a mass trauma ritual. These guys are...
This Charlie Kirk thing, too, is pretty brutal.
Well, they perform what is known as death magic. Okay.
Death magic?
Death magic, yes. By killing people, you get power. That's some of their belief. And they don't have to get everybody to believe that.
How do you get power from killing people?
I don't know. That's their belief. You know, I mean, it's like, you know, the JFK assassination. If you look very hard at JFK assassination and 9/11, both of their grounds, okay, the killing plaza of Dealey Plaza, okay, and the place where those buildings were built, okay, all started in the 30s. Okay, they all started those operations in the 30s. Okay, so this has been a long-standing plan of using psychological warfare. Okay, because you see,
don't tell me it was built in 1933.
What? Oh,
Dealey Plaza.
Well, you know,
on the 33rd latitude.
It is on the 33rd.
I know, that's crazy.
And Elm Street there is the only street around there that runs at 33rd degrees. I mean, we've been doing these roundtables for quite a while. And one of these roundtables, we've had this one gentleman who's can show how every major city in the United States and most in the world are set up on a particular grid, a Masonic type.
Is it also true that the first nuke ever tested was on the 33rd degree?
Yeah, the Trinity
and
site.
Jerusalem's on the 33rd degree.
Yeah.
The end times prophecy, Kris.
Well, end times prophecy, I mean, there's been so many end times prophecies over and over again. People sell all their house, move up, get up on the top of the hill and wait for the world to end. And Lord have mercy, it don't end, Yeah. I mean, it's a
Word
control mechanism. And,
Yeah.
you have a particular group of people, the priests. Okay, I mean, the priests learned out a long time ago. Okay, if I can make some smoke come out of that little hole over there, the people will bring me food. They'll bring me their kids. They'll bring me most anything. Okay, and so the priests learned how to, do things so that they could get things from the population and control them. Okay, another group out there is the pirates. Okay.
Pirates?
Pirates, sure. If you're a seafaring civilization and you come across a bunch of landlubbers, okay, your knowledge is so superior to those landlubbers that then you're able to, use techniques to get what you want out of them. So you basically have, through time, these groups and this corruption has grown up.
It's grown up?
Yeah. Yeah, it's rather sophisticated. I mean, right, you were saying that, people started thinking about secret societies. I mean, I started thinking about them, after my daddy told me. And
I think people have always been thinking about secret societies. I just think it was these types of people who take them seriously have always been brushed off.
Oh, yeah.
Until now.
Yeah. I've been brushed off for years.
Yeah. And now it's impossible to ignore. Even though there's people that go to the end of the earth to try to ignore it still.
Right. Well, when I would first start talking about this, and people would come up to me and say, "Oh no, they're just a bunch of greedy people. They just want money." And I'd say, "They've already got a lot of money. It's not about money. It's about control. It's about control of the narrative and control of the future." Okay, and which leads to control of your children. Okay, because, we have all of us together have fail-safe devices. So we, as a humanity, just don't go all jumping off the cliff. Okay, the first fail-safe device is the dialectic. Okay, and I say some things that I know are true about drug running, intelligence agencies, and secret societies, okay? Then I find somebody that I know is a spook, okay, that says stuff just a little bit more outrageous. He put some lies in there, okay, because by controlling the extremes, you control the middle, okay? And so this fail-safe device can be manipulated, okay? The next fail-safe device we have is the cycle of generations. There's a very good book called Generations, A History of America's Future, okay? And you have an idealistic group, okay? Then you have a reactive group, then you have a civics group, and then you have an adaptive group. And then they start all over again, propelling us in the future.
Yeah.
Okay? So the powers that be, the kids that were teens and preteens in the 1860s, they didn't cohere as a generation, okay? Some of them joined the generation after, some of them joined the generation before, some of them just went out in the woods and did weird stuff, okay?
Okay.
So what that does is it makes us a 4-cycle engine, but we're only running on 3 cycles.
You're talking about like the fourth turning type thing.
Right.
Okay.
These are the same people that wrote the fourth turning.
Okay.
This is their earlier book called Generations. Okay. So So in this book they talk about, okay, why did the kids that were teens and preteens in the 1860s, why didn't they cohere as a generation? Well, it was because of the assassination of a president, war, and then opium. Okay, and so and because we were only a 4-cycle only running, it allowed these people to really get their claws into our country during the Spanish-American War and all of that, okay, because we weren't as strong, okay, because we're only a 4-cycle engine running on 3 cycles. So they attempted to do that again, okay, to us, the people that were teens and preteens in the 1960s, the boomers, okay.
Right.
And to do this, they had to have in place by 1950 three things, okay. They had to have the modern education system, okay, and this was brought to us in a very open campaign by the Masons, okay, and then they had to have television, okay, but not just television, but television that runs at 60 cycles, so it has a little flicker in there. You read any book about hypnosis, it'll tell you that 60 cycle flicker puts you into a trance, okay? I mean, the patterns...
Sorry to interrupt you. Somebody told me the other day that the education system, what was Kurt saying? He was saying kindergarten was specifically designed to get kids away from their parents.
I read that too, and there's some, I'm sure there's some truth to that, and the because the television, the patents go back to the 1920s. Okay, as this guy was sitting there watching a wheat field blowing in the wind, he says, "Gosh, I could make pictures on a cathode ray tube." Okay, and so they got television in place, and I was right there in D.C. We had TV early, and a nascent drug culture. Okay, so they needed those three things in place by 1950s. Okay, you had the beatniks, right? So it didn't happen. We weren't supposed to cohere, but as boomers did cohere. We cohered as hippies around a joint being smoked around a circle with a little bit of LSD thrown in. Okay, because see, with LSD, you can distract, you can make people wear white sheets, okay, but you can't control people like you can with opium and heroin. I mean, heroin's got a very simple dynamic. Here, kid, you want some? Oh, you want some more? Oh, how about your friends? Okay, I mean, that's a basic dynamic with that, okay? And because, see, what my dad said about the Vietnam War, about drugs, it's absolutely right. Because, see, what they were doing, they were sending American boys and girls, Canadian boys and girls, Australian boys and girls, Korean boys and girls, and a couple other boys and girls to Vietnam, okay? But like in World War II, you signed up and you didn't know when you was coming home, okay? Mm-hmm. But Vietnam War, you coming home after 1 year, okay? So a bunch of these kids, okay, got addicted to the heroin that was being proffered to them by anybody who was 12 years and up in Vietnam. And, an interesting thing about that is, a lot of the people, just dropped it cold turkey, but a bunch of them didn't. And then, and they're spread all around the country, all around the world. And what does a junkie do? A junkie sells junk. Okay. So, because, there's this whole big thing about, the hippies and everything, it's just a CIA project and all that type of stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And I look at it as, well, maybe they tried, okay, but it's more like the mad scientist, and the experiment got way out of his hands, way out of control,
right?
Okay, and so us hippies we cohered as a generation. Okay, and they did. History Channel did a big 2-hour special on the hippies. Okay, and they said, what came out of the hippies? Mm-hmm. They said the personal computer and the internet. Okay, and see, those are the tools that we're using to fight the corruption of people using secrecy to lie, cheat, and steal. Okay, because see, the personal computer allows me to be a publisher, allows you to be a podcast. Okay, mm-hmm. And then the internet allows us to tell people about it and talk about it. Okay, and so how are we going to get rid of this corruption if we don't know about it? Okay, we ain't going to get rid of it if we don't know about it. And if we start to understand it, okay, then we can get rid of this corruption. Because again, these people ain't gods; they're just people. Okay, and they're using their secrecy to lie, cheat, and steal. Okay, and destroy the United States of America. I mean, what our founders went through, okay, to create this country of government of and by and for the people. You know, we aren't taking our orders from no king. We aren't taking our orders from any pope or whatnot. You know, we're taking our orders from the people.
All right, think about this for a second. Every guy has their go-to piece that just works. Their favorite fitting pair of jeans, their favorite pair of dunks, their shirt that just fits just right. You don't even have to think about it. You just throw it on and go. But most guys are missing one crucial element to their lineup, and that's bling. And that's where GLD comes in. They make clean, everyday pieces that instantly level up your look without trying too hard. This isn't something you save for special occasions. It becomes a part of your daily rotation. You throw it on and it just works. This is the chain that I've been wearing. What I first noticed about this chain was the incredible weight and the amazing attention to detail. You can actually feel the quality. I've seriously been wearing this. The clasp is solid, the finish is clean, and it blings out in any lighting. And it's so incredible when I go out in public, people think that I'm Gucci man. It is made of white gold, and it's so comfortable that I honestly forget that I even have it on. It's one of those pieces that just stays on. And GLD backs it up. They've got over 2 million customers, 50,000 5-star reviews, and everything comes with a lifetime guarantee. They've got chains, pendants, watches, and even official collabs with NFL and NBA if you want to start repping one of your teams. If you want to level up your look without overthinking it, this is the move. Work hard and change the game. For a limited time only, new customers are getting an insane deal. Use code Danny Jones to get 50% off at GLD.com. That's 50% off with code Danny Jones at GLD.com. After you purchase, they're going to ask them where you heard about them, and please support our show and tell them we sent you.
Do you think that the creation of the internet and the creation of the personal computer was on purpose?
Well,
meaning it wasn't an accidental thing that just happened with some innovative geniuses in Silicon Valley.
Well, I mean,
first of all, the internet.
Everything happens, you know, for some reason or another. You know, whether do I think that there's a
let me just put it to you this
master plan back there?
Yeah, exactly. Like the internet we know was created by DARPA.
DARPA, yeah,
the DARPA net,
yeah.
And Jacques Vallée, I think, had a huge. Or no, Jacques Vallée was GPS, I think.
The guy in Switzerland. But see what happened? No, with DARPA. Okay, again with the internet, the people drove it into something that nobody had any idea. I mean, I've read a lot of science fiction. I was big reading in science fiction as a kid, and all of that, all the Heinlein, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Okay, and there's nothing out there that shows exactly. I mean, maybe the closest thing is Moon is a harsh mistress. Okay, but no, basically, in the Bay Area there, okay, somebody in Berkeley says, wait a minute, I can sell my Volvo to this guy over here in Stanford, okay, and so I mean, it grew up into something that nobody had any idea that it would be.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it wedded itself so fast to the financial markets and all kinds of things. Okay. So
yeah.
No, I do not think that what the internet has become was some guy in DARPA many years ago said, "Oh yeah, that's what it's going to be."
You don't think it was some big, broad, spanning overall control plan by the elites to look, we're going to create this thing called the internet. It's going to secretly spy on everyone around the world. Similar to how the creation of Google happened with Sergey Brin getting groomed and visited by the people from CIA and NSA.
Yeah.
And DARPA.
Well, that was, yes. I mean, there's that aspect to it, but they can't control everything, and they can't control every person.
Certainly not.
And people are driving things way beyond what their control mechanism. I mean, that's how come the corruption is so much in our face these days. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's quite in our face, the corruption.
It is, and I wonder what that's doing. It's on one hand, I feel like it's getting out of their control because it is so blatant in our face. And on the other hand, I feel like, is it really out of their control? Can they just let it out and drive people crazy enough to where nobody knows where the line between illusion and reality is, and people are just going to be stuck in this mass psychosis and fighting each other over everything?
Well, we've done some AI, and we're looking on doing another AI book. And one of the things that gentleman talks about is that it's easier for them to control a divided society than it is, so it might behoove them, to divide people. And yeah, I mean, it's an old standard thing, divide and conquer,
And it seems like with this Epstein stuff, that the old media establishment is doing their best to use the most bipartisan story of my lifetime, which is Jeffrey Epstein, to divide or distract from it, and to make it bipartisan, or to make it more partisan, and to make it, and to even just to push it aside, things like calling it a Democrat hoax and all this other stuff. When I feel like that this Epstein story is the biggest bridge between both sides of the political spectrum I've ever seen. And it seems like it baffles my mind how you can have all of these social justice riots over things like the George Floyd thing and other things where you see people getting, streets getting burned and all this other stuff. And then Jeffrey Epstein, no one does a thing about it. No one seems to care. And it's like you have way more people being abused and victimized and murdered over this. Why do you think that is? Have you thought about that?
Well, just from my experience, okay, in the 60s and 70s in anti-war, okay, you would you could follow the anti-war up to their leaders, and you would end up with a bunch of commie CIA people, okay, because it was behooving them to to have it under control, okay. And the whole thing about, you see, the Spanish-American War, one thing that did, we then started having a war like every 20 years.
Yeah.
Okay. What did your daddy do in the war? What did your daddy do in the war? So it creates that mentality. Okay. So one of the things that they were trying to create there too, because they wanted this division, it was to, have this anti-war. And they're dirty, evil people, and blah 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 blah. Because one of the things that when I first started talking to people in the 70s a little bit about what my daddy said and my little bit of research, somebody looked at me and said, "You're a conspiracy theorist." Mm-hmm. And I said, "What's a conspiracy theorist?" So I took it on as an intellectual discipline. Okay, and one of the again, I like books, so I went into every bookstore I could find, okay, and said, "Take me to a conspiracy section." And all of them had at least one book, okay? So I took these books and, started reading them. After a while, I says, "Wait a minute, these are, because I got a book that, blames it all on the Mormons. I got a book that blames it all on the Roman Catholics. Okay, I got a book that blames it all on the Masons. I got a book that blames it all on the Jews. I got a book that blames it all on the secular humanist." Okay, so I said, these are like formula books. Okay, I don't like you, you don't like me. Let's throw stones back and forth. Okay, so again, by controlling the extremes, you control the middle. Okay, that's why you have all the, the weird stuff on the hard right and the weird stuff on the hard left. Okay, because by controlling the extremes, you control the middle. Okay, so
that's interesting.
It's definitely a wild world. I mean, we did this book called The Nebula. By a Belgian writer, and it was based on a Belgian state police report. Okay, and they, what do police do? Well, we'll put an undercover guy in, right? You know, he rises up and up and up in these things. He gets to the top, and he finds that there's a whole bunch of groups all called the Order, okay? But they're different flavors, okay? You might have a gay one, an Islam one, a Jewish one, you know, whatever.
Different order for each flavor society.
Right. And then you know, you say, well, now what are these people going to do? You know, this one, they don't trust this one over here. So what are they going to do?
Scapegoats.
They're going to say, hey, have a couple of your people join my circle, and we'll have a couple of your people join my circle. Okay. And so you have these interlocking circles, and then you have a council type thing. But and the other thing that the secret societies have is they've been keeping records for, you know, hundreds of years, okay? And so they have like a column, horoscope column, economic column, you know, different things so that they can keep track of things. And then also, if they see a similar situation, they say, well, hey, this is what happened back then. You know, maybe we can look at that. But what we have going on now is, you know, like that fourth turning, we have a major paradigm shift happening.
Yeah.
Okay. And what those guys show is that every time you have a major paradigm shift, no matter who you are, okay, things are going to change big time. Okay. So during a time like this, the quote unquote powers that be are, you know, going to try and pull out all stops so that as the shifting happens, they land on their feet, right? So, and I'm very hopeful for the future. Again, I truly think that by, you know, continuing to expose this corruption, okay, we can hopefully, you know, come to a situation where we can deal with it.
Yeah, where do you think all of this goes? How do you think, do you think there'll be a massive restructuring of the government or how government works? Or my opinion is you know how they throw those big tents over the houses to fumigate it of all of the termites? That's what they need to do to the United States government.
Well, you know, I go along with something like that. You know, I mean, there was a huge restructuring after Watergate. Okay, there was a huge restructuring after Watergate. There was a lot of, you know, lawyers put into different places to make sure that people just couldn't, you know, go off the rails like some of that they did. And, you know, like Nixon, I mean, how did Nixon get his job?
That's a good question. I don't know.
He blackmailed the Dulles brothers.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, he was a lawyer running around New York City, wrapping up some of the contracts. Okay, and the Dulleses were ensconced in a mansion out in Long Island. Okay, and they were bringing in not one or two or 10, but thousands of Nazis against direct written orders from Harry Truman. Okay,
the Dulles brothers were.
The Dulles brothers were. Yeah.
For what?
Well,
this was pre-paperclip?
This is pre-paperclipp, post-paperclip, and part of paperclip.
Okay.
Okay. And because they were their friends. I mean, Dulles did Operation Sunrise. He you know, did a piece of paper, you know, with General Wolfe before the real surrender. And then he brought over Richard Galen, okay, to run the Galen organization.
I don't know who Richard Galen is.
Richard Galen ran the intelligence for the Nazis, mostly in Eastern Europe.
Okay.
And he was ensconced set up the Galen organization.
So you said Nixon got blackmail on the Dulles brothers, and that's how he got into the power.
Yeah.
That's fucking crazy. And Nixon also was the head of some sort of commission, like 15-something commission.
Well, Operation 40, basically.
Yeah, Operation 40. Yeah, there was some sort of 1512, I want to say it was, or something like
5401.
that. 5401. That sounds right.
Yeah.
And he was working with that billionaire dude who had the ship that recovered the submarine.
Hughes.
Howard Hughes.
Well,
Yeah.
there, basically after Dulles, they sent Prescott Bush to take care of Richard Nixon, and he introduced him to a bunch of the gangsters in L.A. And whatnot. I turned the mob down twice.
You turned the mob down?
Mm-hmm.
For what? What were they offering?
Well, I was a salesman selling pre-recorded video, and
What kind of video?
well, I was Sound of Music, whatever, at the very beginning there was, we had one sheet of paper, had both VHS and Beta on it there. And I was at the CES show, Consumer Electronics Show in Chicago.
Yeah.
And I was a typical salesman. I ain't making enough money. And they said, go meet Guido up at the top of the stairs. And I go up there, and he's up there, and he sees I'm a hippie, and so he offers me Cheech and Chong movies that aren't even in the theater. Because at this point in time, you could get easy $100 for Superman or Star Wars and stuff, because they weren't out officially. And but I don't know, I didn't like him.
Yeah.
So I said no, and then later on, they wanted to set up a used warehouse in Portland. And I knew it'd be used, but there'd also be a bunch of black market stuff there. And they made sure that I knew that the lounge where they did the thing, where I was to meet their boss, that he owned it. And I get there, and he brings 3 picture books. His picture book of his mansion, his picture book of his horses, his picture book of his cars. And but you only tell those guys yes once, and I'd been around the block enough to know that, so I told them no.
Yeah, probably a good move. So, Nixon and Howard Hughes went through the mafia to try to whack Castro, right?
Well, you had Ed Lansdale, the guy that replaced my dad. He used to come over to the family house too. He was head of Operation Mongoose. Okay, which was the thing that brought the mob and the CIA together to kill Castro. And then, for my money, Lansdale wrote the script for the JFK assassination. I mean,
you think Lansdale wrote the script?
Yeah. You had Pegasus. Pegasus was set up by Truman. Okay, when he signed the CIA into operation, and it was mostly naval intelligence people, but a couple other people, and they were to go off reservation and to look in and see what was going on, and if anything hinky was going on, they were supposed to tell the president. And there's a guy by the name of Trent Parker, and he had a tap on Hoover's phone. Okay, and before the assassination, they got a conversation with Hoover and Johnson. Okay, they're so blackmailable, they're in your pocket.
Yeah, those guys are sick fucks.
And then you had Alan Dulles. Okay, he's a consigliere. Okay, and then you had George H.W. Bush on this conversation, and he brings Skull and Bones, the whole Skull and Bones people, Averill Harriman and whatnot, and Prescott, and then you had Nelson Rockefeller.
Yeah.
And he brings David in. And that's your basic crew. Okay. And then, you see, I mean, when you have a conspiracy, when you say, hey, you want to go kill the president with me? You don't do that.
Right.
What you do is you hold it very tight, and then you lie. You lie to those people to get them into the position that you want them to be in when the action happens.
Have you heard of John Newman?
Oh, yeah.
He's got a great grip on all the moving parts in the JFK story.
John's okay, but no, I've been at conferences where he said, hey, I was wrong. Okay.
That's a good thing.
Yeah. Because, I mean, he used to put in that James Jesus Angleton was a big part of it. And James Jesus Angleton, again, got his job by blackmailing the Dulles brothers, okay? Because Alan came to him and said, there's a
How
bunch...
do you do that? How do you get a job by It seems like
He didn't do the background checks on a bunch of Dulles' friends. He was head of counterintelligence.
Right, I know that.
Okay.
I'm just saying, how do you present that? It seems like a dangerous way to get a job, to use the blackmail.
And it's funny, if you read about blackmailers, one thing that blackmailers tend to do is they tend to get paranoid. Okay, and James Jesus and Richard were both rather paranoid, And why would you bring James Jesus in? There's no reason to bring James Jesus in. You just do the deed, and then you let James twist in the wind and create mud for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Newman's whole take on JFK was it was the military coup. He said it was Lemitzer and the Joint Chiefs of Staff that wanted the all-out nuclear war with China and Russia, and basically Kennedy was getting in the way of that, trying to stop it. So,
well, then why didn't they do it after Kennedy died?
Because he has a good answer for that, and I don't remember what that answer is. But basically, the point was at that point in time, the spring before his death was when the U.S. had the most nukes and Russia had the least nukes. And we figured I think this was documented. They said that we would lose something like 60 million people, but they would lose 150. So it was
insane.
It was.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's insane. Okay. No. It wasn't the military. It wasn't a military. I mean, you had to lay the military off. You had to tell them particular lies and different things like that. But the object of it was the American people. You kill the president in broad daylight. Okay, with a story that a 5-year-old can see through. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I mean that tells the American people, well, hell, you ain't in charge of your government. Okay.
Yeah, this is another thing that there's a million different flavors of the Kennedy death. There's people say it's everything. People say it's Israel, it's aliens, it's nukes, it's whatever.
Yeah. No, it was a psychological.
You think
hit
it was an intentional psychological trauma experiment on the public?
It wasn't an experiment. They knew what they were doing. I mean, mind control. Let's talk about mind control.
Yeah, let's do it. Actually, let me take a quick break. I got to take a pee real quick.
Okay.
All right, we'll be right back. Mind control. We're going to jump right back into. Tell me about mind control.
Well, mind control, you've got a couple of factors to mind control. First one is trance. Okay. And everybody takes trance differently. Mm-hmm. Some people, go deep really fast. Some people, it'll last long. But everybody affects trance differently. Then you have role playing. Okay, if you would you do something not as yourself, but would you do it if you were Toto the dog? Okay, and then you have trauma. Okay, and ritual. Okay, and those are the basic things of mind control. Now. They call it Operation Bluebird. Why did they call it Operation Bluebird? Okay, Metrolinx Play. Okay, and because in Metrolinx Play, there's like 5 pages of characters. I mean, there's like milk, water, the luxury of being a slave, the luxury of being rich. I mean, there's just all kinds of off-the-wall characters in it. Okay, so where was Metrolinx Play first put on? 1906 in Moscow, same place you had Pavlov and his dogs. Okay, see, the mind control, they move it around too, because if you keep it in one place too long, people start looking at it and seeing it there. It's one. The mob learned that too. I mean, if you have a house of ill repute, okay, and you have the same girls there all the time, the revenue on that house goes down. Okay, so they had to move the girls around. Okay, and because, if you look at the Thule Society, okay, where Hitler came out of, okay, you've got a lot of mind control, different things coming out of there, and so, and it gets down to a very technical level again too. The flicker in the TV, okay, and different things like that. But and just like you can do mind control to a single person, okay, a single body, you can do mind control to a nation, to a community, to anything that's a unital value. You smash that unital value. Okay, you create altars.
Right. The two political parties that's a version of mind control. It's a way to keep people in check and control them.
Yeah,
and fit them into different ideologies, right?
Well, it has aspects of it and can be used that way.
It's a very high level, broad version of mind control.
Yeah.
I mean, the deepest, most sinister aspects of mind control go back to the Cold War days with like MK Ultra and the Finders. And
Finders aren't Cold War. Okay.
Yeah. What was can you explain the Finders?
Well, basically they came across these people in a park in Florida, if I remember correctly. And then they traced them back to a place outside of Maryland. And again, it's about getting kids, and start doing dastardly things to them to create altars, and then
to create like Manchurian candidates, that kind of thing.
There's mind control survivor conferences. I strongly recommend you go to one now and then. And I went to one, and this is a good 20 years ago, and there was like the women. At that point in time, one of the biggest, because they've got to experiment, they've got to figure out how it works, And the number one that they work on is women that work for the federal government, And so we got it wasn't quite 20, it was maybe about 18 of these ladies in a row, and by their ages. And we started asking them questions, and you could see where the ones, the older ones, they were basically trying shotgun approaches, trying to figure out, what do I have to do to the brain to make certain things happen. Where you got down to the end, they were just using stun guns, and they had the different delta and different aspects that they. Groom people for, either spies, assassins, sex, and different things like that. And you have people there that have been used in Masonic ceremonies as little kids, because then they're this innocent type thing in their rituals, and it's really quite insidious. But again, just like you can do it to one person, you can do it to a country.
Sure.
And because it shatters the mind, and then and they're always after people that have need a strong father figure. And like Lee Harvey Oswald, and now. Do you know who Michael Rupert is?
I know the name. You have to remind me who he is.
He wrote a book, From the Wilderness. And I met him through the CIA drugs crowd. And he was a gentleman that went through mind control as a kid. And because like the JFK community, that's a large community looking into it. CIA drugs, very, very small community. And we were making some inroads, and so they sent Deutsch, the CIA director, to L.A. and Rupert gets up there and confronts him.
Oh yes, right? I know this. That video is incredible.
Right, and then he becomes a quote unquote a leader in the CIA drugs thing. Well, I was putting on CIA drug symposiums. And he started throwing his weight around and stuff. And Hopsucker was the first person that says, there's something hinky there going on. And, he did make me not have one person there at one of the symposiums, and which I was very sad, because he was soon run over by a truck. And he was a DIA.
He was?
No, not Rupert. This gentleman by the name of Brian Quigg, who was a DIA agent and was adding quite a bit to the discussion. And then all of a sudden, 9/11 happened, in the CIA drugs email list, we were very much into, deconstructing government lies and everything. So as soon as 9/11 happened, the first thing that was said was, okay, everybody turn on your VCRs, okay, and start recording everything. And, the powers that be hit that little email list too. They sent somebody in there. Well, the first thing, 9/11 was you had the Boing.com, okay?
The what?
Boing.
Okay.
Okay, which there was no planes in D.C. In other words, no plane hit the Pentagon. Well, if you've been to D.C., the Pentagon is surrounded by freeways. Okay, there was plenty of people in D.C. who saw that plane hit. Okay, but if you start the meme out there that, there's no planes in D.C., it makes, the people in Congress that could actually do something think that we're all nuts. Okay, and then there was a lady by the name of Webb Ferry. Okay, and she started the thing about, there's no planes in New York either. They're all UFOs.
They're
or whatnot.
holograms.
Yeah, and that kind of stuff. And then you had the kicker come in where this other guy came in, Sean McBride. He comes in and says, the Jews did it all. Okay, which is a way to, shut down any conspiracy thing. You just, say the Jews did it all. And we've come to find out that Sean McBride wasn't Sean McBride. He was John Foster Burleigh. Okay, he was a spook who started, doing dirty and even before the internet on bulletin boards, and they tried to take that over, and then Rupert became very big in 9/11, and helped him do that, and he, before we had the first big 9/11 conference in San Francisco, all of a sudden Mike goes to Russia for 2 weeks for an economic conference. And then he comes back and says, 9/11, we're just reshuffling the chairs on the Titanic. I'm going to do the old conspiracy two-step tango and take you to peak oil. That's really the big conspiracy that's going on, the big bad thing that's happening, which was complete bullshit. Okay, excuse my language. And because he went through the mind control as a kid, and he brought another person into CIA drugs who had openly talked about going through the mind control training as a kid, Catherine Austin Fitz. Okay, she does.
Oh, I know her.
Yeah, I know her. Yeah, she's a very smart, very nice lady. I like her a whole lot. She doesn't like to talk about that now, but
Tell me what happened to her?
She went through mind control as a kid. That's how she got on to be on Dylan Reed. Okay, it used to be.
How do you know she went on through mind control as a kid?
She told me. She talked about it.
Oh, publicly?
Yeah. She doesn't like to. Well, no, we were.
How did this happen?
We were private conversations, but yeah.
How did this happen to her?
I don't know.
That's all she said. I went through mind control as a kid.
Well, she went through more, but I mean, this was good 20-some years ago. I'm 70-some. I don't remember everything. Lord have mercy. And it's like, Gerald Ford went through mind control training. He went through the football program. Okay, along with Ted Gunderson. Okay, who was a special agent in charge of FBI in L.A. Okay. Because, you see, you can follow the mind control training, a lot of it came over from Europe, okay, went into the Army, okay, and then when the Air Force went out of the Army, most of it went to the Air Force, okay, and when you look at mind control for a long time, you find what I call them wells. In other words, they're places where there's been a lot of activity for a long period of time. Okay, and where did Gerald Ford come from? What's Gerald Ford's real name?
Jerry.
Leslie King Jr.
Leslie Keene Jr.
King Jr. Yeah.
How do you get Gerald Ford out of Leslie King?
Well, his mom remarried, but they're always after kids that need a good need a father figure, and so you can see where this mind control was in academy for a while. Okay, and these academies said, okay, I've got one person here, and I can have him work with me, but I'd like to see if I could get two people together, and if I can get them to work together. Okay, and they decided football was the place to do that. Okay, and Alonzo Stagg, a member of the Order of Skull and Bones, is considered the father of American football.
Alonzo Stagg?
Stagg, yes.
He created American football.
Stagg. And so you look at Gerald Ford. Where was he as a football player? He started off in Omaha, okay, a big well. Okay, and then where did he go from Omaha? He went to Michigan. Okay, they like Michigan. They could give people drugs and take them to Mackinac Island and think that, hey, you took me back 100 years. You're a powerful person. Okay, and then where did he go after Michigan? He went to Quantico, and then he went to Yale. Okay, and that's where he got his law degree, and he was an assistant football coach there. Okay. And, and he came in real handy, didn't he? Okay, during the Watergate and all of that. I mean, and then what's his name? The L.A. guy, Ted Gunderson. Okay, I mean, he's been at my house, spent a couple nights there, and I talked to him about it directly. Told him, I said, Ted, you're being used and abused. Okay, Ted was out of the football program too. Okay, where did he play his high school football? Colorado Springs. Any Air Force around there? Okay, and then where did he go from Colorado Springs? He went to Omaha, and then where did he go from Omaha? He went to Quantico and then Yale. Okay, so it's a the powers that be have affected our history a lot with us not even knowing it.
So the NFL was created by the CIA.
I didn't say NFL. I said
American football.
American football, Alonzo Stagg. Yeah. I mean,
that's pretty crazy.
Yeah. Well, George H.W. Bush's first base coach was one of the guys that recruited people there at Yale. I mean, and Bush was in the CIA right after Yale. He, him just joining it when he was the director is malarkey.
It's springtime. That means it's time to clean out your fridge from all those forgotten leftovers and old condiments. And it's time to restock those shelves with some refreshing selections from ButcherBox. For over a decade, ButcherBox has led the industry with meat and seafood that's antibiotic-free, hormone-free, and independently verified. Because when it comes to fueling your body, quality isn't extra, it's everything. Clean, whole protein means better support for strength, metabolism, and that steady all-day energy we're all chasing. ButcherBox sends 100 premium protein choices like grass-fed beef, free-range organic chicken, crate-free pork, and wild-caught seafood. Everything is hormone and antibiotic-free, and it all meets the same strict standards, whether it's a filet mignon or chicken nuggets. I love being able to customize my box. I usually go for the ribeyes and the salmon, or sometimes I like throwing in a few chicken thighs for the week. Everything shows up frozen, vacuum sealed, and ready to go. No grocery store chaos. They're a certified B Corp, which means they actually care about how their animals are raised, how their team is treated, and also how they impact the planet. And as an exclusive offer, new customers can get their choice between chicken breasts or top sirloin for a year, or ground beef for life, plus $20 off when you go to butcherbox.com/Danny. That's right, your choice of chicken breast or top sirloin for a year, or ground beef for life, plus $20 off your first box. And free shipping always. That's butcherbox.com/Danny. And don't forget to use the link in the description so they know we sent you. You said earlier, or a couple minutes ago, when we were talking about 9/11, you said there was lots of evidence and eyewitnesses that there was a plane that hit the Pentagon?
Yeah. Yeah.
What is your overall take on 9/11? What do you think that was?
Again, it was a mass trauma hit against the American people. Okay.
So it was intentional and the American government was complicit in it?
Well, the secret societal part of the American government was complicit with it. Okay, I mean, not the whole American government was complicit in it, no. You know?
There is this, I saw this video on X. Someone sent me this video of this group of students doing this crazy art project in one of the Twin Towers. And it took up an entire floor, was basically shut down for months right before 9/11. Are you familiar with this?
Mm-mm.
I got to find this real quick. I send this to you, Steve. Yeah, there was, I think I might have sent it. That's it. That's it. You found it. This one? No, the guy on the right. That interview on the right.
Okay. Well, let's listen to
Check this out. We got headphones right here. If you put these on, you can hear the audio. All right, press play.
Good evening. You're watching the Artist Forum. My name is Ellie Fordyce, and I will be your host for this segment. This evening, I'm very, very happy to be up at Worldviews, which is a wonderful art exhibit and presentation that the Lower Manhattan Cultural Council has been putting on here at the World Trade Center, #1 building, World Trade Center. And I have with us tonight Mukhtar Kokash. And Mukhtar, can you tell us something about this program and your involvement with it?
Sure. This is actually an artist residency program. Artists apply to and are selected by a jury to be in residence on the 91st floor for a period of approximately 6 months. And it's a raw space. It's a shared studio experience for approximately 15 to 20 artists. And they get to work in this environment. Some people paint the views, some people work on issues of corporate culture, some people are interested in issues of scale, others meditate and do very ephemeral works, because as you can imagine, the views are very inspiring and the light is very beautiful. This program was actually started as it is 3 years ago. However, approximately 4 years ago, an experiment to have artists in the World Trade Center was initiated by an artist called Carl Scorza, and who approached the Lower Manhattan Cultural Council about the desire to paint from the World Trade Center during the winter, because it was convenient and the World Trade Center would offer spectacular
go back
views.
to the very first frame of that video. It shows like a wide angle of some of the art all over the floor and the walls. Just refresh it and see if it restarts it. I want you just to see. So right there, look, pause that. You see how it says exit on the back wall and on the floor?
Mm-hmm.
And then if you play it, it shows like a different area where it says that they have the word exit everywhere. It's just so strange because there was, right, look at that. Freaky.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are descriptions of people talking about crazy, like floors being shut down months before that, and like construction and crazy jackhammering going on one of the shut down floors.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there was, there had to be some pre-planning on the whole thing to get it to happen, but.
And then in the Epstein files, you have that whole shadow commission thing where they're emailing Ghislaine asking her if she wants to be a part of the 9/11 shadow commission. And then there's that whole missing tranche of emails between like 1999 and 2001.
What are they trying to hide? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm just a kid looking at this from the outside, trying to figure out what's going on. Mm-hmm. Okay, and I mean, it's quite obvious that there's all kinds of occult things about 9/11. We did a book called "The Most Dangerous Book in the World," where the guy deconstructs all the different occult lines to the act. And then, have you ever talked to Richard Grove at TragedyandHope.com?
No.
Well, I strongly recommend that. Richard is supposed to be dead. He was supposed to be in 9/11 that day, but he had a car that had just got done, and he picked it up from his the garage, and he didn't get to work on time that day.
Him and Howard Lutnick.
And so he's done a lot of incredible work on that, and he's quite erudite about the whole thing.
Interesting.
I strongly recommend you talking to him too.
Yeah, I'll check him out. You know, another interesting character tied into all this stuff and the Epstein stuff is Howard Lutnick, who is still employed by Trump's White House after all of this shit. You know, he was on a podcast 6 months before the Epstein files came out, absolutely lying through his face hole about how he met him one time and then made a dying vow with his wife to never ever be in touch with that despicable human being ever again.
And he lives, what, 9 steps away from him?
Yeah. Yep. 11 East 71st Street, and Epstein was like 90 71st Street.
Right.
And so they shared a wall between their two houses. And there's tons of, I don't know how many, but there was a bunch of emails between them where they were going to, like, all the things in that podcast interview he said that he vowed never to be a part of with Epstein, fundraisers, this, that, whatever. He was literally at all those exact types of events with Epstein. Not to mention, he was literally going to his island with a boatload of people, and there's photos of them together hanging out. Like, the fact that this guy still has a job is insane. And he was one of the ones who famously made those crazy bets on the airlines right before 9/11 happened.
He was. Oh, wow. Yeah, no, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, the whole Epstein story, you know, we did One Nation Under Blackmail by Whitney Webb. And that was built on, you know, a bunch of other books that we did, like the Franklin scandal. Okay. And, you know, I mean, because of, you know, Franklin cover-up and all of that, I'd been talking to people in Omaha. And one day I get a call from these people in Omaha telling me, well, there's this guy from Rolling Stone. He's going to break the whole story open.
Oh, Nick Bryant?
Yeah. And I says, I heard that, and I said, sounds to me like a vacuum cleaner operation. Okay, basically where they send in somebody to find out who knows what and all kinds of stuff like that.
Right.
But I finally got a hold of Nick, and we talked, and he said, well, you know, he was a member of this group that was in Greenwich Village, and he knew everybody in New York City. And so he was, the book was going to come out from New York, and I gave him a couple books and said, okay, well, remember, I'm here. And a couple of years later, he came back and says, yeah, New York isn't going to touch this. And so we did Franklin Scandal. And, you know, and then I saw Whitney, I don't know, somewhere on my computer screen. I said, she seemed like an interesting gal. And I got a hold of her, and I says, you must have a book in you. And she says, yeah, I think I do. And, you know, it took a little while because she got pregnant and COVID and whatnot. And so by the time she delivered it to me, it was, you know, 900,000 pages or something. And I said, people aren't going to
900,000 pages?
No, 900 or 1,000.
Oh, I was going to say, Jesus.
And so I said, you know, people don't like those big of books to read, you know.
Right.
And she says, well, it's kind of 2 books, so we broke it apart. And, you know, it really nails it. It shows how, you know, it gives a history of honey traps, okay? And to do a honey trap, okay, basically, first off, you need a room, you need a building, you know, and then you need some little boys and girls, okay? And then you got to get the whole place wired, you know, for video and sound, okay? And then you're going to need a manager, and the manager's going to want security, okay? So it's a costly operation. It's a big operation. And she showed how that in the second book that, well, you know, we don't need to do a honey trap in a room anymore. All we need to do is be able to hack into somebody's cell phone, and we know all about them and whatnot. So, you know, how does this world really work? Okay, it works through deceit and secrecy, and a lot of blackmail and stuff like that. And, you know, I really think that, you know, now is a time for all good men and women to come to the aid of their country, okay? And we can stand up if it takes going in the streets, takes going in the streets. But we need to have government of and by and for the people, and not government by.
Yeah, well, it seems that ship sailed.
Well, so what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You just going to live with it and say, "Hey, that ship sailed"? No, Don't you want to have? The boomers and right around there. We're basically a bridge between the analog and the digital. Okay, when we grew up, you're lucky if you got 3 TV stations. Mm-hmm. Okay, and it's a much different world today. And that's generally how history goes. But no, I think that all the Constitution is still there, okay, and a lot of our institutions are here, okay. A bunch of them have been corrupted, but there's no reason why we can't take them back and have government of and by and for the people.
How would we do that? How would that happen?
Well, through voting, through elections.
I think people have already lost faith in voting and elections.
Well, they have, but what do you I don't know. You've got to we got to stand up for our country. We have to.
What was the famous Thomas Jefferson quote? Every certain amount of time, you have to spill the blood of the tyrants on the tree of liberty.
Well, if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. Okay, but I think it can be done around a table.
Every 200 years, I think it was.
Yeah, and through information, I truly do. I think it can be done. So maybe I'm just a silly hippie, but I truly think that our country is worth spending time and energy to restore.
Mm-hmm.
It's we're people just like the people that were in the founding, the founders, and they stood up, and I think that it can be done, and it has to be done through voting, and we had more people not vote than people that voted for either party last time.
Really?
Yeah. Because people have lost faith in a lot of things.
Yeah. You can't really blame them.
Well, I understand that, but what again? What are you going to do? You just going to give up and get grifted? Have your country get grifted away?
No, you can't give up. I don't know what it is. Is it because it seems like it's a problem that's too big to fix? Why do people take so much more action over other not trivial, but other much smaller scale problems in our society? Because maybe it affects them more directly. Maybe this doesn't affect them as directly.
They think so.
I don't know.
Yeah. It's
like I said, this Epstein thing. I would expect like full on anarchy in the streets over something like this. Speaking of Epstein, there was a woman who was a victim of him who you were working on a book with?
She wasn't a victim, but she knew 4 different victims in South Africa, and she was a South African lady.
What was her connection to Epstein? Did she have any connection, or she just knew the victims?
No. She had gone to some of these victims in South Africa had gone to the same girls' school that she had gone to. Okay, and so she. This one called her up and started talking to her before she talked to her mom. Mm-hmm. And she had been trafficked 4 times, or gotten a plane 4 times from South Africa to go to New York. First time she goes to New York, she barely even gets to New York, and they take her directly to the island. And, she gets arrested, and she gets taken to Paris. And then the last time she got taken to Zorro Ranch. And Epstein didn't her there. She said that he gave her what she felt like was a pelvic exam, and then this survivor woke up in the middle of on a medical table with medical instruments up above her, and this lady said, "It's okay, just go back to sleep." And when she got back to South Africa, she had a wound here in her belly, and it seemed that they were looking at particular bloodlines and particular blood types, and harvesting eggs, and doing eugenics and transhumanism and baby farming and stuff like that. And this lady connected a whole bunch of these links, and then a little bit after she signed a contract with us, she started to get harassed. Her place got broke into. She got followed. And they got the electronic harassment got to be so much that her boyfriend went into jail. Into hospital with auditory problems. And she finally had enough and just walked away from 5 years worth of work. Okay.
What kind of auditory problems?
That's all I heard.
Okay.
Was told was auditory, and this was a book that was going to it was going to sell well. It was going to do good for her, because basically she was focusing on the scientists instead of the sex part of it all. And because,
the science of it.
Yeah, because Epstein, wasn't just getting girls and young women. He was getting, all these scientists, and paying money to have them to get together, and paying money to Harvard for their brain stuff. And this is very similar to the MK Ultra type stuff, because like I said, it gets moved around. And like one thing that she brought up in the book is how every girl, when they come into the Epstein's place, they're brought into the kitchen first, and they're given a bottle of water, okay? And there's all kinds of things that you can put in water, like scopolamine. I can't say the word very well, and different things. So, and then again, you have these girls, and you can give them one thing and see what happens. Give them another thing. So it's continuation of these, MK Ultra type experiments there too. So,
and there's those emails with him and Peggy Siegel. Peggy Siegel is like the famous New York PR lady, Hollywood lady, where he's emailing her saying, "I need you to help me find my next baby mama," where he's clearly trying to have children.
Right.
And she's advising him on how to do it. She's like, "Oh, you got to find you got to find a girl who isn't going to get entitled or isn't going to get emotionally attached and all this stuff." Just sick.
Well, the whole thing is rather sick, don't you think? And to go back to your question about how did they, Epstein? Well, his dad. Well, no, that was Barr's dad, wasn't it? Yeah, that was Donald Barr.
Yeah, Donald Barr.
Yeah. And
roughly 5,000 emails between Peggy Siegel and Epstein sent between 2009 and 2019. Can you imagine having 5,000 emails with one person? I don't know if you do. I mean, I don't have 1,000 emails with one person, I don't think. Yeah, she represented Spielberg, Weinstein, Barry Levinson. Siegel opened up about what she gained from her association with Epstein, who died by suicide in 2019. Sure. Epstein's still alive. You know that, right?
Well, I hear people tell me that. I mean, we did a thing in L.A. with Sherry Seymour and Hopsicker. And at the end, somebody came in and said, Kurt Cobain's still alive, and all these people are all alive and whatnot. I mean, again, it sets up dissonance, and stuff. I mean, it's part and parcel of dividing and conquering and, and creating dissidence. Mm-hmm. Because they don't want us to all be on the same page and understand their corruption. It's a distraction,
right? Yeah. Whether he's alive or not, it doesn't change the fact that we know the truth about him, right? It's just you want to create a distraction. That makes sense. But it is just crazy, the prostate email. The email with the doctor about going over his blood work and his medications and all that. And he's like, because the doctor's like, in the email, you don't have a prostate, right? And Jeff responds, correct. And in his official autopsy report, they inspected his prostate and it was impeccable.
Well, I mean,
is that some sort of weird limited hangout, or is that insane evidence that he's still alive? It's fucking bonkers.
I mean, I don't know, and really can't know. Okay, mm-hmm. and again, it creates dissonance and creates it so that we're fighting. Well, is Epstein alive or not?
Right.
Not what he did, mm-hmm. and what all happened to us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the Zorro Ranch thing. I think they just started to investigate that. Right.
Right. Yeah,
that's the one that was kind of been on the back burner. No one ever paid attention to that one.
Yeah. No, the FBI told him don't look into it. Told they were the people in New Mexico were going to look into it, and they told them not to.
Yeah.
And I mean, and there's underground things there.
The new owner's turning it into a church. He's going to bring. That's where Jesus is going to come back when he returns to Zorro Ranch.
Oh boy. Well, I hope we get pictures,
Yeah.
But yeah, no, the thing around the Zorro Ranch, I mean, it's got underground facilities to it. It's got, some very strong communication links there, and then it's in between, the Trinity site and all these, what they say are dumbs down there, and the aliens and all that crap, So I mean, how many rabbit holes you want to go down?
Yeah, are you into the alien rabbit hole or no? Are you checked out on that one?
Well,
I'm kind of over that one.
I do think that there's a big universe, and there's a good chance that there's other people out there. Okay, but
you think we got them though? Do you think we captured them? You think we did a deal with them? That's the question.
Well, when you start to, I mean, I've been looking at conspiracy literature for a long time. Okay,
I know you have.
So I've got a whole bunch of UFO books, and read a lot of them. And the funny thing is you end up with a lot of spooks. Okay, when you go into theirs, and then
exactly,
and then the crazy thing about we got transistors from that thing in Roswell.
Yeah.
I mean, you can track that history down. That ain't true. Okay, and them saying that we got Velcro from that thing too. You can track that down, and that's not true.
It's not true that we got Velcro out of it. That was the two guys who wrote the book the day after Roswell. Corso, was that one of them?
Yeah.
And then the other guy threw in not the duct tape, the Velcro shit, which allegedly was fake, right? There was no Velcro found there. How familiar are you with Jacques Vallée?
Oh, not a lot. He was basically one of the guys that they used for the Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Yeah.
He was there, and he talks about a lot of the UFOs could be psychotic type things, and different things, and
it's interesting, right? I've never heard that before until I haven't read any of his books yet, but I had Peter Levenda on here recently, and he was explaining to me. I was asking him I'm like, if you were the CIA and you wanted to figure out what the phenomenon was, I'm like, how would you figure that out? And he was like, he goes, if I was in charge of the CIA and I wanted to figure out exactly what it was, I would go hunt down all of the
experiencers or abductees, and I would study and dissect their minds to the deepest possible way I could to figure out what it was. He thinks the secret to the phenomenon is buried in the human psyche or something like that.
Well, it's been shown, I can't remember which one, but that they were, parts of mind control experiments. Some of these have been shown to have been. And it's let's look in the Bible. Let me see. We got all kinds of beings in the Bible.
Yeah.
Don't we? Cherubim, seraphim, all these.
This lady, Diana Pasulka, the religious studies expert who wrote that, she wrote a couple of recent books. Anyways, Jacques Vallée was one of her main sources for her first book, which was, why is the name of that? American Cosmic was her first book. And she went to Jacques Vallée's home in San Francisco, and she was looking through his library, and they were talking and all this stuff. And he had this incredible personal library of books about archangels and demons and stuff like that. And he handed her this book and said, if you really want to understand the UFO phenomenon, you have to read this book. She took the book, and it was called The History of Satan. And it had 666 pages, and it was all in French. And she actually sent it to me. We should show this, Steve. I'm going to send you, because me and Kurt Metzger were looking for this the other day on the podcast. And Diana sent me a picture of it. The Book of Satan. Of the actual book that we were searching for. This is the cover of it. And it was, I spent forever trying to find it. I just sent it to you on AirDrop, Steve.
Your mind always makes up something that if you can't understand something, it'll show you.
It'll fill in the gaps.
Yeah.
This is the book. So if anybody out there watching or listening has ever come across this book, or if you ever come across this book, let us know, because we want to find it and we want to translate it into English. See if you can actually do some more research on that, Steve. See what you can find.
So,
but yeah, I mean, the Bible is, full of crazy stories that sound like UFOs.
Yeah. Well, a wheel within a wheel and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And, well, let me see. There's a bunch of people there on that mountain. A bunch of them go away.
I found it.
We would have to get AI to translate it for us. It's in French, right?
$50 shipping and handling. Oh my gosh.
It's worth it.
Yeah, I believe it is in French. All of this is, yeah. Oh, wait, can I translate? Whatever.
Crazy stuff, man.
Yeah.
So, back to that woman who wrote The Butterfly. Was it something about the butterfly, the Epstein lady?
Yeah, it was Sarah McCarthy.
Sarah McCarthy.
Called Blue Butterfly, based on Juliet Bryant was the survivor, and she had a diary that had a blue butterfly on it that she had taken with her, and she had allowed Sarah to copy it and read it, and so that was the title of the book. And that I found it interesting that Virginia Griffey and other, the butterflies kind of become a symbol for the Epstein survivors. And then earlier, you had the Monarch program here, supposedly.
Yeah, is it called MK Monarch or something like that?
Right, off of the puppet. It comes from a puppetry name, kind of in German. Yeah.
Yeah. What is the background of that?
Well,
what was that all about?
Again, it's a program where they are getting children when they're very, very young, and traumatizing them. And creating altars.
Yes.
And then using that as a mechanism, as a control mechanism. And Fritz Springmeier was he wrote a lot about it. And I know Fritz. He's from Oregon too. And you've got to take Fritz's work with a grain of salt always, because, and he even talks about there, he says, I just find this stuff and I throw it up in the air and see what happens, because I became friends with a person that Fritz said had been murdered, and he wasn't murdered. So you have to be careful with Fritz's work. But there's a lot of good stuff in there.
Yeah. Was it Virginia Gouffre who did the portrait of all the people in Epstein's life? The crazy portrait that was in the documentary that had Wexner was like the middle of it.
There seems to me there's another one of the survivors that has become a big painter.
Yeah, what is the famous painting from the Epstein victim? I think it was Virginia Roberts, maybe.
No, I can't remember the name. Sorry.
See if you can find the painting, Steve. It's got Wexner's head in the middle of it, like a demon. But it was crazy because it was really interesting how Wexner was the central figure in all of it.
Yeah.
There it is on the top left, I believe. Yeah, that's it. He's the head of the snake.
Yeah.
That's just a little piece of it, Steve. There's the big one.
Yeah, it's Maria Farmer.
Right.
She's the painter.
You can only find a tiny photo of it, huh?
Yeah, it's linked to a Facebook account. Hold on.
There's got to be a better way to find it other than Facebook, bro. You're not going to find it in the comments. Yeah, there you go. Oh, God. Anyways.
So did we land on the moon?
I don't think so. What do you think?
You know, I don't know. I don't know.
Look at that. There's a full panorama of it in its glory.
Yeah.
So you got Ghislaine Maxwell's a dinosaur, and you have Leslie Wexner. He's like a peacock, and his head is connected to the underworld, where you got looks like Bezos there. I don't know who that guy is. I'm assuming these are all like political folks or billionaires. Is that Trump right there?
It looks like.
On TV? Or is that Clinton?
Oh, that's Clinton on TV. Look
Clinton,
at that.
Trump.
Oh my God. That's the face. Holy shit. That's the face of Clinton during. See if this was what year this was painted. Because that looks just like the facial expression Clinton made during the 2016 debate when Trump paraded all of those women, did the press conference with all the women that accused Clinton of rape. You remember that during the 2016 debates?
Yeah. Paula Jones.
Yeah, and he literally said that on the debate stage with Hillary on national TV in front of probably the biggest audience on television history, and it goes to Clinton's face right when Trump says that. And these are guys that used to be friends before that. They were friends leading up to this, right? And then Trump basically burns the bridge permanently forever during that debate, right? And now, how strange is it that you have, now that these files come out, Trump is going, I really like Bill. I don't want to see him get hurt in any of this stuff. I think he's innocent. And then you have Clinton during his deposition doing the same thing. I think Trump's innocent. Fucking crazy. And who is that up on top? Who are the angels? Oh my God. Go to the right. What a crazy photo.
Right.
I would like to see an analysis. Oh, look at the owl. I would love to see an analysis of like who all the different people are in this. Anyways, yeah, the moon. Yeah, what do you think? You think we went to the moon?
You know, I don't know. And my big, why I really wonder about it, okay, is, you know, supposedly there was this big alchemical operation, okay, to control the world, okay. And, you know, first was to destroy primordial matter, okay, the killing of the king, and then bringing the stars back to Earth. You had to do those three things, okay. Destroying primordial matter was the atomic bomb at the Trinity site on the 33rd degree parallel, okay. The killing of the king is killing of Kennedy.
Kill.
Right next to the Trinity River, okay, 33rd degree. Okay. And then the bringing the stars back to Earth was supposedly bringing the moon rocks back to Houston. Okay. So if they didn't go to the moon, okay, that last part they didn't complete. Okay. And they used, subterfuge to say that we did, So, I mean,
Subterfuge? What do you mean?
Lying.
I'm a community college dropout. Sorry.
It's okay. I didn't graduate my college myself. I started a record store. Subterfuge, underhanded dealing, basically trying to, saying, hey, yeah, we did it, But,
So you got to manipulate matter. You got to bring a star back to Earth, and what else?
Killing of the king.
And kill the king.
Right. Those were the three things.
Oh, that explains why there's a whole. I just learned a couple weeks ago that there's a conspiracy theory out there that nukes aren't real, that they're fake.
Oh yeah, that's.
Are you familiar with that one?
Oh yeah, that comes from a older book, and he basically he's not saying that nukes aren't fake. He's saying that nukes only work at particular times. Is what it says, and it's a pretty crazy book, but.
What is the basis of it? Why would they only work at certain times?
I don't remember. I read that book, Lord have mercy, probably 30 years ago.
What was it? You remember the title?
No.
Okay.
No. I could find it out for you and get it back to you.
And then, okay, so to kill the king, bring a star back, and to manipulate matter, what happens if you do all that?
You're supposed to be able to rule the world.
You rule the world. According to who?
This came out from James Shelby Downward. Okay, and James Shelby Downward was the first guy that came out with the whole King Kill 33 type thing. Mm-hmm. Okay, and that was first printed in Adam Perfet Feral House, one of the Feral House books, Secret and Suppressed or something like that. And he's done a couple books out of it. Basically, James Shelby Downward was one of the little kids that was used in Masonic rituals. And it's where he started learning about that.
Interesting.
He's got some wild books out. He's since passed.
Are you familiar with this whole Pax Judaica end times prophecy?
No.
It's a wild one. Basically, the theory is, I'm sure you've seen the recent news stories about how there were a bunch of people in the military, about 14, I think it was 14 different branches of the military, filed public complaints to the or to another branch of the military, basically saying that their commanders in their military units were telling them, and they all had the same stories and all these different complaints across the military, that for the Iran war, that their commanders said to them that Trump was anointed by Jesus to bring the return of Christ or something along these lines. This was like a biblical holy war that's commanded by the Bible or something like this.
Yeah, well, yeah, I heard about that. I don't know a lot about it. I mean, it sounds something like he would. I mean, he just said that for Jesus you have to make the save act happen. I mean, I find it rather. I don't know if you want to go as far as blasphemy, but it's pretty out there.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, if he's doing that to bring Christ back, where's the Antichrist?
So that's the thing. So that's the whole Pax Judaica theory. Oh. So this Pax Judaica conspiracy theory is basically that the Israeli government is trying to cause chaos around the world by doing this Iran war, creating this religious holy war between Muslims and Christians and the Jews. And by doing all this, they will bring back the Antichrist by creating all this chaos, starting all these wars everywhere, and also intentionally stoking anti-Semitism at the same time, which is happening. You have different. If you go online, basically, you can't escape it. It's people. There's low IQ Jew hate, and there's actual legitimate criticism of the Israeli government, and the idea is if they are doing that intentionally, which it kind of seems like they are, they could encourage the diaspora to all move to Israel where they could be safe. And if they get the diaspora to go back to the Holy Land and at the same time bring back the Antichrist, they will usher in the messianic age somehow. And this is the whole Pax Judaica. I think I'm missing a couple elements of it.
Hitler was going to, there was going to be 1,000-year Reich. And I mean,
right.
This is something that goes down through history. You have different things saying, well, we do this, Lord's going to bless us or whatnot, or a Messiah and different. I mean, I've got a writer. I don't have him. I published some of his books. Chris Bennett. Oh, okay. He mostly writes about.
Didn't we just talk to Chris Bennett?
Yeah, we interviewed him.
Yeah, we just talked to him.
Yeah, about cannabis. But he's done a lot of study about apocalypse and
he's been looking into all this stuff
and the. Apocalypse means everything known, and then Armageddon means, a big, massive war.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather see apocalypse where everything is known rather than Armageddon myself. But again, it comes down from choices, okay, that people made. Now, you asked me earlier about secret societies, and one of them I mentioned was Chabad.
Oh, yes, Chabad. We never covered that.
And, Chabad is basically a...
Chabad-Lubavitch or something?
It's basically a sect that it comes back to a particular city, and I think it's in Belarus, okay? And you have to be from that particular city to be a leader in it.
Yeah.
And you find these, these people all around Putin, and you also find them all around Netanyahu. Mm-hmm. And so, I think that these people are using geopolitical games to play games with people. I mean,
or their religious ideologies.
Yeah. I mean, Netanyahu would be in jail if he wasn't president. Good chance that Trump would be in jail if he wasn't president too. Mm-hmm. So
why would Trump be in jail again?
Well, let me see. He had this thing down here in Florida that they stopped about, him having classified information and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then,
they've been trying to put him in jail.
He is a adjudicated felon, 34 felons. You do go to jail for things.
What were the 34 felonies?
Falsifying business records among.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there was the whole Russiagate thing was debunked, though. That was all a political.
No, it wasn't debunked. It
was a Hillary Clinton scam. She was pulling off an operation.
No, it wasn't. The first people to pay for that thing were actually Republicans. Okay, They dropped it. Okay, and then Hillary started paying that again. But that's just that's opposition research and stuff, and it's really. I definitely think that there are people that have blackmailable stuff on Trump. One of them being Putin, and the other one's being Netanyahu. Okay.
How dare you say that?
How dare I say? Well, it's quite in our face, really.
I know, but no one wants to say it. even the like hardcore, the people that supported Trump the most during this recent election are criticizing the hell out of everything he's doing, but they'll walk right up to the line of saying that Trump himself is implicated in it. They won't fucking touch it, Well, but it's just like, well, wow, we have this country the size of New Jersey in the Middle East that we'll bend over backwards for, and there's this invisible sort of something that exists. They have this invisible leverage that we cannot identify. What is it?
Well, they've been giving a lot of money to people. And
but like things. Still, and they can't control the president.
It's called one nation under blackmail.
Yes, exactly.
Exactly. And I mean, it really doesn't, take a lot to understand the perfidy that's going on. Okay, and I mean
the what? What's the word you used?
Perfidy.
Perfidy. Okay.
Okay, and the. So the whole vote thing, I mean, Hopsicker, who used to live here in Florida, did a thing, about the voting machines and how, he was working in Louisiana, and they showed, well, you press here and you say you're voting for here, but actually the vote goes to here, to the other person. So, there's been ways of stealing the vote here for quite a while.
Yeah.
Okay. Mob has been a lot behind it. Okay, because the mob is at the situation where, let me see, this guy likes prostitutes. Oh, this guy, blah, 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 blah. Okay, they've been using the blackmail card for a long, long time. Okay, so
Oldest one in the book.
And so there's no reason that we can't have honest elections. Okay, we have the digital capability right now. Okay, of having honest elections, of knowing, who voted how. We could be doing, digital voting. We could be doing things like that.
Yeah, but doesn't that just open the door up for more fraud?
Not if you put enough eyes on it.
Mm-hmm.
Not if you put enough eyes on it. Okay, you can get
Yeah, but what eyes? That's the whole thing. How do you
people's
know?
eyes. Have some of them elected, have some of them just chosen. Have it done by lottery.
Sure.
Or different things. But if you get enough eyes, okay, we've got the ability to understand. How do they track these people down for child? All this stuff. It's not because they're walking around with a little sign that says, "Hey, I like child," right? They're able to, look in their email box or something like that and figure things out. So, there is the technology out to have a country that isn't, susceptible to blackmail and susceptible to a lot of things. We could have an honest country. We really could. But we have to, put up with
I don't know, man. I think that the people who are interested in leading people are inherently, they have some sort of something built into their psyche where they're just going to do whatever they can to serve their own personal interests.
Pick the jobs by lottery.
Sociopathy.
Pick the jobs by lottery.
Yeah, like the ancient Greeks did.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, we're doing this book called The Psychopathology of Totalitarianism.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And what is... It's a sickness that these people bring to want to have, absolute control and control over everybody. And, that's not what this country was built upon.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's people that, want to say, we can't have multiculturalism. We can't, we've had multiculturalism in this country ever since it began.
Mm-hmm.
And we ought to listen to the Indians too. The Indians have a lot of nice things. The American Indians and the Indian Indians have a lot of nice things to say. There's so much that we can learn from lots of different people. There's this old prophecy about how there's the 5 races, and they come to a table, and they each have something to bring to the table for us to learn how to be humanity. Mm-hmm. And I think that's true. There's a lot that we can learn to make our country a better place. Okay, and there's no reason that we have to put up with all this crap and BS. There really isn't. Okay, except these guys, want to push it down. I have these conversations with some lefties, I guess they are, or whatnot, but. Because it's my contention, my posit, okay, is that we have this secret societal system that's up here, okay? Your next solid level is sovereign countries, Okay, and in between the secret societal level.
So wait, Jeffrey Epstein's in the secret society level?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because in the secret societal
Because
level,
I always thought there was a separate, I'm sorry to interrupt you,
No,
but
it's okay.
I always thought there was a distinction between the Jeffrey Epstein layer and then the bankers layer, like the Rothschilds.
well, you've got the secret societal level. Your next solid level is the sovereign countries, and in between this,
Yeah.
okay, you've got intelligence agencies,
Right.
Okay, religious organizations, fraternal organizations, criminal organizations, okay, and then they're able to go down into the sovereign countries, and they don't have to affect everybody in that, but just maybe one or two people, and get it to go to the direction that they want.
Sure,
And then you have the situation where these secret societies are not bound to a country. Okay, they'll trash their own country if it serves the goals of the secret societal system.
Right.
Okay, so it's a
So it's almost not like anarchy, right? It's not just nation states for them, because the idea of all these nation states just competing for power is sort of like anarchy at the highest level. But if it's true what you're saying, that there are this globally governing order of secret societies that are manipulating the nation states, that's crazy. That's like a 4D level of fucking order.
well, and I mean they don't have as solid control in every country, but they have,
Right. They just try to move the needle as much as they can.
And through the intelligence agencies and the criminal gangs. Okay, that gives them a lot of power and a lot of insight. Okay, as to, well, let me see, what person in this country do I want? Well, this guy, he really likes to go to the prostitutes all the time, blah, blah,
Yeah.
and different things. So, but I have this conversation with these people because it's my posit that the secret societal system imposes itself upon the sovereign countries, which then imposes upon us people.
Yes.
Okay. And they're saying that the dynamic is, and that's not the dynamic. The dynamic is just class warfare. It's just, us with pitchforks, okay? And the people up here trying to, stay being the people up there, okay? But to me, it's a lot more organized than just people saying, oh, I want to be the rich person. I want to be the rich person. They're imposing their will. Okay, and they'll use people like Trump because he's an easy mark. Okay, you can.
Which level is he on, by the way? Because he seems to have his foot in both worlds, kind of.
Well, again, would you play a little game? I call it the catbird seat.
The catbird seed. Okay.
Okay, let's say that this does exist. This secret societal organization up there exists. Okay. Let's say you're the guy running it. You're the catbird. Okay. What would you do? How would you run things? Okay?
How would I run things?
Yeah. What would you do?
I would try to I would try to make sure that my bloodline survives and that I have a way to escape the earth when apocalypse finally happens and make sure the world doesn't burn.
Right, and you have all these rich people buying bunkers and everything right now too, don't you?
Yes.
And
this is one of the things that Catherine Fitz talks about.
Yeah. Well, if you actually had a large-scale nuclear exchange, okay, how long you got to be in a bunker?
Long time.
Yeah. So, but
the people that would survive the longest are the guys that are in the nuclear submarines. They would be there until they ran out of water or food.
Isn't there a book about that?
Probably, right? What book are you talking about?
Isn't On the Beach something like that?
I don't know. I don't even know that book.
No, okay.
What's the name of it?
On the beach.
It's just called On the Beach.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah. So again, I just really see that that's what we're up against is a secret societal system that is using those different levers to screw with our sovereign countries that then screws with us. Okay, so
what would you do if you were the one that ran the secret societies?
I'd out them. I'd out them.
How would you do that? Go on a podcast?
Put them on a pod.
No one will believe you.
Put everything out on the internet.
No one would fucking believe you.
Right. Well, that's what I told my dad. Okay. Because he told me, he says, I couldn't tell you for 10 years. And well, actually, I didn't tell him that, but I thought about it later on because, he told me and I was his son and I didn't believe him.
Right.
So because I got to thinking, I says, if Dad had talked, it wouldn't have made any difference because nobody would have believed him anyway. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I've been talking about the secret societal system now for, Lord have mercy, good 26 years, not longer. Okay, and I mean, when I first started talking about it, there was very few people I could even talk to. And then I found that the people that I could talk to, that we could, have some understandings, were people that had a wide view of something. Mm-hmm. Okay, had a wide view and could see, the different changes. But, there's no reason why we, the people, cannot be in charge. Okay, there's no reason to have these other folks in charge. I mean, our money, and that was one of the, after the Spanish-American War, and they got their hooks into us real deep. Okay, that was one of the things that they did. They says, oh, well, let me see, let's get an income tax, okay, which wasn't a tax on wages, okay, and then, oh, well, we'll get fake money, okay, the Federal Reserve. Oh, and well, once you got that in place, what do? Well, you get the people in debt. Okay, World War I, okay, and then World War II. And in World War II, they did a thing. They said, oh, we got to beat them Japs and Huns, and we're going to have a victory tax, okay? And you know what? We aren't even going to make you lick a stamp. We're going to go directly to your employer and grab it, okay? That's where withholding started. Okay, and what that did, because before then about 20% of the American population paid income tax, because the income tax isn't on wages, okay, but they keep dumbing us down, okay, and so once they got withholding in, it was about 60% of the population was paying, so they got a lot more money there to fiddle with, okay, and so these taxes and war and all of this stuff. I mean, I do a thing, a round table with the Fitzgeralds, Paul and Liz Fitzgerald. And Paul is a Fitzgerald of related to Honey Fitz, JFK's grandfather. And one thing that we found in there, oh, Lord, I'm getting tired.
That's all right. We're almost done. You want to wrap it up?
Oh, let me see if I can remember this. Well, we've been doing. It's been based around JFK's peace speech that he gave at. I think it was June of '63 at American University. Mm-hmm. And we live on one planet. I mean, we've had people go up in space and take pictures of it so we can see it.
Allegedly.
No, those are quite real. You can take a bank on that, and so we're all living on one planet. Okay, and so we need to learn to get along, and So, the other thing that we discovered, that there was a guy by the name of Henry George. Okay, he was like the second biggest speaker behind Mark Twain in the late 1800s and early 1900s. And he did a thing about land rents, okay? And it's basically a taxing thing that kind of makes capitalism a little bit more friendly, a little bit more moral, okay? And they buried him.
Land rents?
Yeah, land rents. Guy by
What
name
was the basis of it?
It's about taking the money from you base the taxes on the land and its potential. Okay, so when a landlord just sits there and lets the apartment house go to heck and stuff like that, it's no advantage to him. And they've done it in some cities in Pennsylvania, where cities have gone from being everything boarded up to a viable economy. They're starting to talk about it in Maryland. They set up the whole part of Chicago, University of Chicago by the Rockefellers, economics, to completely bury Henry George. Okay, and if a person does a Google, they'll find out about it. But it's just an incredible thing, and so onwards to a better future for our children.
I agree.
Amen.
I hope we can do something like that. I love your optimistic outlook.
Well, thank you.
And thank you for doing this.
My pleasure.
Tell people where they can find you and find your publishing company, all the books that you publish, and get a hold of you, all that jazz.
Well, it's TrineDay.com, TrineDay.com. We've got about 180 some books up there, and been doing it for 26 years. Can't get a Wikipedia page. People have set up Wikipedia pages, and they get taken down.
That's probably a good sign in the long run.
That's what people tell me. and because it's been very interesting. The basic stance on our books is to ignore us. I mean, they tried the second book I did, Expendable Elite. I had to go to court in Charleston, South Carolina, because the Special Forces Association said I had to declare this book fiction. This is written by a lieutenant colonel, the only lieutenant colonel I know that didn't graduate from high school. And it was about the Wah House, which are a militant Buddhist sect in Vietnam. But my dad had been in Vietnam in '56, so I'd done a bunch of studies, so I knew the book was true. And so this hippie from Oregon and a lieutenant colonel from New York went to court in South Carolina and got a unanimous verdict. And so we got to publish the book as nonfiction.
Wow.
But it's been interesting. There's been lots of attempts to try and put us out of business, but I'm a stubborn SOB, and my mama was a very nice lady.
And you're still trucking, man.
Amen.
I love it. Well, thanks again for your time, man. This has been really fun.
Well, thank you, and I hope I wasn't too confusing.
No, you were great. We'll link all your stuff below, and that's it. Good night, folks.